We hear a lot from feminists about strong, independent women, but not so much about what they mean by strength. From my observations, the movement predisposes women to take offense at multiple aspects of strength, starting with one of the most important: resilience. HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. One of my dad's early coaching experiences provides a great example of the characteristic and value of resilience as he described at that year's award ceremony for the team at the end of the season. As he was going through his list describing each teammate's highlights from the season, he skipped one runner. The omission was immediately noticed, and the rest of the team frantically motioned to Dad to try to remind him. Dad let them, saving this young man for last, when he didn't just give a few highlights but described a hero's tale. The athlete, who shall remain anonymous of course, had been in a terrible accident early in the school year. One of his legs was injured so badly that it was nearly torn off. Treatment and rehabilitation had kept him out of school for several weeks, but he returned, still recovering, at the end of winter. His body was in such bad shape that movement was hard. He struggled to walk and had to be carried up and down stairs to get to all of his classes. Despite all of this, he informed my dad that he wanted to go out for the track team when that year's season began in the next few weeks. Dad thought the young Anon was biting off more than he could chew. He called his parents and was told by Anon's mother that while she was unsure of the idea, their doctor had given the go-ahead for it. It would be very painful, he'd said, but not dangerous or damaging. The consensus among adults seemed to be mostly worried that the pain would be too much, but nobody wanted to be the one to forbid him from trying. As a coach, Dad wasn't going to discourage him. He talked it over with him and learned that this meant a lot to Anon, as it had even prior to his accident. He didn't want his injuries to rob him of a chance to be on the team. The two of them decided on a goal and a program. The individually tailored workout Anon was given didn't single him out from the other runners. The team was so small, every student had his own workout. These were all somewhat unusual, relying on the layout of the neighborhood and what could be done in the gym because their small school didn't have the facilities many of the larger institutions had. Like any coach, Dad pushed the team pretty hard, and eventually one of the runners complained. Good coaches know what buttons to push to draw the best fight out of their athletes. Dad suggested his detractor go check with Anon to see what items he should remove from his workout. Anon's experience as a runner was every bit as painful and grueling for him as his doctor had predicted. He pushed himself daily, gritting his way through ache and fatigue, inching toward his goal of running the 800-meter dash. He wasn't going to be a front runner. He was fighting each time to be able to finish the race. His teammates always cheered him on. They stood up for him when students from other schools, unknowing of his battle, poked fun at his slowness. They all knew he was doing more than should rightfully be expected of him. Nobody was going to approach him with a complaint that their workout was too hard. No one did. Instead, they took Anon's example and pushed themselves to stretch their limits. Seeing his tenacity, his teammates found within themselves that fiery determination they needed to tough out their pain and fatigue, and they attacked their training with sustained vigor. In the process, they became a locally unbeatable team, only finally meeting their match when at the pinnacle of the season, they faced championship teams with 3 times as many athletes, one beating them by 1 point and another by 2. Anon, the runner who simply struggled to be there and was happy to achieve the goal of finishing the race, probably didn't realize what he was to his classmates until the award ceremony at the end of the year. But he had become the heart of that team. His teammates became better athletes because seeing his fight, they couldn't shrink from their challenges. One of the key components of resilience is passion. When you fight for something that has great meaning to you, that fuels your determination. It doesn't have to be anything lofty or big. It just has to be important to you. When striving for it becomes challenging, painful, tiresome, or frustrating, your desire for that something inspires you to confront and overcome those obstacles. When you get knocked down, your passion for that something is the handle you grab to pull yourself up. For many resilient people I've known, that important something has been just keeping a sense of normalcy. For Anon, that normalcy was being part of the track team, the thing he'd wanted to do before he became injured. To do it, he had to use another key component of resilience: an optimistic focus. When confronted with adversity, there are two directions your focus can go. You can get stuck obsessing over obstacles and pitfalls, paralyzed by the idea of confronting them, or you can consider alternatives. What can I do? Anon wasn't going to be the strongest or the fastest or the most versatile competitor on his team. He was going to be the slowest. He was going to have it the hardest. But what could he do? He could do a little better each time, with an ultimate goal of finishing the race. That leads to the next component: willingness to fail repeatedly until you don't. Each time you fall, you learn information that can help you be better prepared for the next obstacle, and the next. In some cases, you start to see that what may have looked impossible before, what you started out trying to work your way around, is actually doable. Each time you get back up, you're ready to move forward with greater confidence and determination. You know more about the obstacles you face, and more about the steps needed to get around or overcome them. This is supported by yet another component: an alertness toward the discovery of resources and tools you can use to reach your goal. This can be as simple as encouragement received from teammates and your coach, as in Anon's example. It can be information, ideas, funding, anything an individual facing a challenge can use to overcome that challenge. That brings us to one of the most important components: the ability to maintain your drive when fear is riding shotgun. Resilience isn't being unafraid of obstacles, unfamiliar territory, pain and suffering, or failure. It relies on making peace with knowing these are part of a normal life's experience and preparing to confront them as part of your struggle, even while you are afraid of what could or will go wrong. Dad had a point he always made about heroes when he went over Hemingway's writing with his junior high school literature classes. In Hemingway's writing, the hero wasn't always the guy who overcame every obstacle and won against whatever conflict or enemy the story threw at him. He could also be the guy who chose the manner and limits of his defeat, deciding what couldn't be taken away from him, regardless of what could. In doing so, he had his victory, in his own way, on his own terms, even if his only term would be that extraordinary obstacles will not stop me from completing this otherwise ordinary undertaking. One of the cruelest things you can do to a person is pathologize his or her potential for resilience the way victim identity ideologues like feminism do. We intend to do exactly the opposite. This week, HBR Talk is going to discuss what we mean when we talk about strong women, and share our own experiences and observations on women's capacity for resilience. We stream on multiple platforms. You can tune in to the live stream on YouTube via the link in the low bar, or find other viewing and listening options on badgerfeed.com.